Rev It Up Racing has rapidly expanded its depth by producing quality content with your #1 coverage in Michigan and Ontario. And so, we have added Rev It Up Racing Radio to our racing media platform. Rev It Up Racing Radio is your short track racing grassroots coverage in late model, modified, ABC stock car, street stock, and 4-cylinder divisions. Listen weekly for short track news, rankings, schedules, and driver interviews.
Welcome to Rev It Up Racing Radio. This week's guests are Tim Aho and Dennis Aho of Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. We are here at Team Aho Racing headquarters. Between Dennis and Tim, they have over 80 years of racing between the two father-son duo who have raced many tracks throughout Ontario and Michigan. And today they will be our guests on the Rev It Up Racing. How are you guys today?
Pretty good. Thanks for having us.
Very good.
Denny, first thing is, can you just talk about this week's race where you won the feature?
Yeah, it wasn't. Actually, we almost weren't going to run the feature. I was having an overheating problem with the car. We think we were losing a head gasket. But anyway, we filled it up, and it wasn't hurting the performance of the car, but I was real concerned about overheating. So I told Tim and everybody there, I says, well, if the temperature gauge climbs too high, I'm going to just start the race and pull off. Well, we topped the radiator off good, and I went out and ran, and I was probably spending more time staring at the temperature gauge than anything else going on out there, but the temperature was staying down pretty good. So I figured, well, as long as it stays on, I'm going to keep motoring on. So I got a few breaks out there, but it was real hard racing. Well, anyway, I kept watching the temperature, and I moved up to second, and then pretty soon I seen Billy give the 5 to go signal, and I just got in the lead, so I figured, well, unless this thing really gets hot, I'm going to stay out here. Which I did. I kind of guarded the position a little bit. I ran low on the track, so if anybody going around me would have had to go on the outside, the long distance, and it worked out. It didn't hurt. I didn't hurt the motor, but I got to the end of the race all right. But now I've got to take the motor apart and see why it's overheating.
Tim, were you sitting in the pits going, what the hell was he doing?
Yeah, I thought he was going to pull off earlier, and I figured the gauge, was probably, still bouncing around on him a little bit. But I figured, for as long as he was out there and he kept running, I figured, it was probably going to last for him. And I figured, with the other cars dropping out, Keenan had problems and Tony Rankin had problems, and I figured, it was obviously his biggest competition in the class for the day, so I figured they were out of it, and told them all you got to do is worry about the 5 car for the rest of the night, and everything should be good. And yeah, I was one nervous crew chief.
Totally understandable. Now, Denny, I was talking to Spanky the other day. It's like, say, you're in your 50th year of racing. Is there any time you can decide to hang him up?
I enjoy doing it yet, but probably one of the hardest parts for me right now is just getting in and out of the car. The cars are so confined anymore. Once I get in the car, everything's comfortable, but I just dread getting in and out of the car, and at the end of the race, getting out of the car, because the bones just don't move like they used to many years ago.
And I was talking to, like, say, Billy and Jerry and Terry at Kinross last week, and you were one, I guess, if you want to call it pioneer. I'm not trying to age you, but pioneer of helping Kinross come to what it is today. What did it take to get Kinross started over there?
I had about 2 I have been racing pretty much all over the Midwest, and we didn't have a track going around here. And I kind of was gnawing at the back of my mind, gee, I'd love to have a local track here. The last one we had was in the 50s. It used to be a track just about across from where the new Meyer store is. There was a dirt track in the early 1950s. I used to go with my dad to the races. He worked on a car there. So I kind of got the bug. Boy, Kinross is a beautiful situation. We got grandstands, we got lighting, we got PAs. So I approached the fair board, and I got kind of negative contact with the fair board. They were kind of horse people. They liked their horse racing, and they didn't think car racing had much of a future.
Car, 4 legs, 4 wheels, a little bit different, right?
Well, anyway, I worked on them. They gave me some hoops to jump through. Go take care of this. What's this going to cost? What's going to happen here? And me and Rick Ellis did a lot of legwork on it, and finally. Took about 2 years. One day I got a call from John Gaines Sr., and he says, why don't you go back in the next township meeting? We'd like to talk to you some more about that. So I went in, and it kind of got the ball rolling, and we come up with some money, my group, and the fair board come up with some group, and we got it rolling, made it work, and we got the track all built, and got the last race in during the fair for that season, which kind of kicked us off for the following year. So we had our foot in the door for the first race, and it went over great. I think there were 2,200 people at that first race.
What year was that?
1995.
95?
Yeah. And anyway, that got the ball rolling, and it's carried on ever since. And I kind of backed out and become uninvolved with the track, but still kind of kept kept looking over my shoulder, helping it when I could.
And you're saying that's 27 years later. So, and that's like what Denny mentioned, Tim, is with, like, say, his dad, and now you two are doing it. Is that something that just means a lot? That there's not too many sports today that you can actually do father-son, right? And then that's the big thing, right?
Yeah, it means a lot. Yeah, I've had a lot of fun the last 30 years. Actually, my 31st year coming up this year in racing. I never dreamed I'd be saying that, but that's my 31st year, and yeah, I'm glad he got me into it when he did. I started off racing motorcycles when I was in my early teens, and that kind of dissolved in the area, and we started racing. He had an extra late model laying around, and first car I ever hopped in was a late model. I mean, most people don't get that opportunity, you know. I raced that from, 16 years old. I started racing that, and here we are 31 years later, and it's still going.
And it's like I sat, I'm trying to think of, not 2 weeks ago, I sat with Dustin Jackson, 16-year-old, him and his dad, and I know how all fathers and son get along, but over the 31 years, how's it been with when it comes to the car and the racing?
I think we've gotten along really well with it. I mean, get banged up once in a while, you know, you get discouraged on nights, you know, and you probably say things that you don't mean to say, you know, I mean, it's in the heat of things, but for the most part, I think we get along great.
Yeah, you have good nights, you have bad nights, but by far the good nights outweigh the bad nights. And it's a lot, my whole family's involved. I've had my granddaughters out racing with me before, and that was very enjoyable. In fact, down the road, a few more years, I might have a great-grandson out there racing, so I'm kind of looking ahead a little bit there on that.
Is that when you'll climb out of the car?
More than likely, I'll be out of it by then. They'll probably need help getting me out.
But it's one sport that, like, say, age-wise, you decide to hang it up when you want to hang it up, right? It's not where a lot of other sports, when you get to a certain age, you're not doing it. We're here, like you say, if you can fit into the car, you can.
Yeah, it isn't real physically demanding once you're in the car. Think ahead a lot, and that helps you. Think ahead. What's going to happen? Who am I racing against? What can I expect out there at the track? And kind of play it by ear a little bit, or anticipate where the race is going to go. Where do I want to be when this happens?
No, and I've talked to a few people, and they had mentioned, like, say, Michigan, Ontario, Denny, you've raced all over. Can you talk a little bit of your experience about the Argo series? They ran Escanaba one time, and I got to meeting some of the guys up there, and I thought, boy, this is a real interesting class. Well, so I signed up and went to some of the races in the Midwest. So I got to race down in Illinois and Wisconsin, and met a lot of interesting people, and raced with a lot of people who have gone on to NASCAR. I raced with Matt Kinsep's crew chief, Robbie Reisner, Joe Shear Sr., no, Joe Shear Jr. is the crew chief, but I raced with Joe Shear Sr., I raced with Dick Trickle, Ed Howe, a lot of people now who are retired, but I've met a lot of very interesting people, very good people, and a lot of people who became very wealthy from racing. And it's for sure you're not doing it for the wealth here, right?
No, not for the wealth.
It's enjoyment, and you say family. It's when the family go, and it's a day for spending with the family too, right?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's where. And it was Ken Ross when I sat down with Jerry and Billy and Terry last week, and they talked about the volunteers being more like a family than volunteers, and even the racers. And we talked about before we started where it's more like a family atmosphere, where majority of the drivers, if you need help, or we know a driver pulls in by himself because he wants to still race, a guy will run over and help if he needs a tire changed or something. Or a lot of other places don't do that. Yeah. And that's one thing about Kinross I find that it's, and not just Kinross, about the grassroots or short track racing is people are willing to help each other.
Yeah, after that feature last week, the 69 car who gave me a real battle, I just walked over to him and was just getting out of his car, and I shook his hand. I said, "It's been great racing with you." And he said back to me, "Boy, it was great racing with you because you're such a clean racer." So he appreciated me, I appreciated him.
But he probably thought, what the hell are you doing coming over, right?
Yeah, I've been to tracks before where the guy's carrying a tire iron and you begin to wonder.
I remember we were talking, like say, off before we started with different tracks, and I've seen like guys go up and jump on the hoods and they attack the guy, and the guy jumping on the hoods is the one who gets hurt, not the guy who's in the car. Yeah. So it doesn't matter male or female. The tensions go in the speed. Again, it's not where we're playing hockey or football where it's a ball or a puck. Here, it's thousands of pounds that you're driving, right? So, Now, Tim, can you tell us a little bit about like your racing, what you've raced over the years, and what you're doing now?
Well, like I said, I started out when I was 16, pretty much, with an extra car, and pretty much progressed onto a couple different cars. We picked up my late model, and that I still have in our possession. We picked that up in '99, and we still have that car. That car's won a lot of features, won 3 championships with that car. And it's basically just been sitting there collecting dust here the last couple of years. You know, we haven't had any real need to race it. It's cost too much to run them. Nobody locally is racing them anymore, so it's...
So now, when's the next time you're going to probably get onto the track?
I'm planning on racing July 9th, which is our next scheduled race event at Kinross. Planning to have the modified ready. We've been just basically getting it back together. We haven't had a lot of time, put a lot of effort into the other car, and this car's just been pretty much sitting collecting dust too, you know, just trying to make sure his car is good to go for the rest of the season and that we're not going to have any problems with it and little things show up. So trying to get all the bugs worked out of it before I get back in my car.
No, when's the last time you two probably raced against each other? Do you remember?
Yeah, last year with the modifieds, I was running the modified, he was running the modified. I have not had my modified out this year. I'm concentrating on the ABC car.
Understandable. Now, Tim, if I was to ask you, who's the better driver?
Tough question. In his era, his day, back in the younger days when he was real aggressive driver, I used to watch him at pit line. He was pretty aggressive back in his day. So we've had our both moments. So I'd say we're both a tie.
I feel Tim's a more technical driver. He thinks about the race more, how what he's going to do to the car, what the weather's doing, a lot of different things he'll take into consideration more than I ever used to. So he's a little more prepared for the individual race than I ever was.
Now, Denny, is that a little bit more? And what have you seen changed over the 50 years when it comes to racing? I know cars have changed and everything else, but when you say the type of driving Tim is compared to you are, what has changed over that time? Is it because of technology, or
the technology is the big thing? Before we used to bolt on some shocks if they moved up and down. Now the shock technology is just unreal. I mean, there are people in the country who do nothing but work with shocks, adjust shocks, make shocks. They'll ask you what kind of car it is, what the track is like, how much the car weighs, how does the driver react on the car, and they'll build you shocks for these kind of cars, and it just...
And I think the internet has helped a lot. You know, for the last 15 years, you know, since everybody's really starting to use the internet a lot more than... I mean, it's amazing what you can find on the internet. You know, just little things to try, little twerks to try.
The information network is there.
Well, in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, I know of three guys or 3 families that have simulators. And have it's a town of 75,000 people, but we go back to the Wilsons or the Jacksons on that side, or like even Taylor Babcock, okay, she's gone in the military and stuff like that. The young group, they like, again, technology, right? It's like a video game, but it does give them a little bit of experience. But the way the technology is today, you can almost learn before you get onto the track.
Exactly.
It's not the same, of course, but it gives you that little bit more feel, right? And that's the way technology, like when you said, you strap on. And when you started 50 years ago, was there even a seatbelt in the car?
There was a seatbelt, but normally we were sitting on just a slightly modified stock seat.
Yeah, so safety-wise...
Well, safety has made great strides. I mean, we'll put a lot of money into seat belts, helmets. We don't skimp on helmets at all. I mean, if it's $300-400 helmet or more, we just jump on and get the helmet because it's going to help us. Yeah, because that's where back in the early days of racing, I know some people that got hurt, and normally it was because of equipment failures.
And even today when we watch NASCAR and the speeds that they're going today, we were watching last week, and my brother-in-law doesn't follow it that often. And he was asking me questions, and I'm, like I say, not any knowledge compared to you guys, but he goes, how do they see? And just because of the safety, like you say, it's on both sides of their heads. And again, they have crew chiefs, everything else, but the way the safety is, say, with the Hans devices, everything, it's just...
Yeah, you're pretty limited once you get all that on and in the car and strapped in. I mean, there's not a lot of movement whatsoever. I mean, some of the Hans devices and neck restraints and next gens, I mean, there's different neck restraints out there that'll let you have a little more visibility than, per se, you know, the other old systems, but they're still pretty confined. You can't see like you used to. Before, I mean, I used to look around, look to the left, look to the right, you know, if you heard a car next to you, you can't do that anymore. you're going off the sound next to you, and that's all you can do.
Now, is it a benefit? I know some tracks, like say notice in Michigan and Ontario, some use mirrors, some use spotters, some don't. Is there benefits there or disadvantages?
I think a lot of it anymore is that you get the people that use the mirror for the right purpose, and then you get some people that use the mirror for the wrong purpose, and then you get the two of them that collide. Was he using the mirror to block me? Was he not using it? I mean, I've been accused of it back in the early days when Kinross ran the mirrors. I mean, I remember getting accused of it before, and you were usually guilty of it.
It's called mirror driving.
Yeah.
You're racing the person behind you, not the person in front of you. And
You know,
a
now
lot,
without
a lot of places thrown on it.
Without the mirrors now, I mean, you're just, like I say, you're just going off the sound of a car next to you. Anybody tells you they didn't know you were there, I mean, they're lying. I mean, you can hear a car around you, you know there's a car there.
You come and they're coming, or you almost can tell sound-wise which side they're coming from.
And if you made a mistake, the previous corner, and didn't get the bite off the corner you were looking for, and you hear a car there, I mean, usually you know when somebody's going to be up there, if you made the mistake and spun the tires. Or
that's where it comes, like you say, not an advantage, but that's where knowledge comes along and experience.
Definitely
right?
seat time, definitely.
Yeah, but again, it's one of the only sports that you can be. And I used this weekend at Kinross, Anthony Mandarino at the age of 14 won the 4-cylinder, where, like you say, yourself driving 50 years, and you won the feature in the ABC. So it tells you seat time is.
Yeah, you can't say the seat time is everything in the sport.
Yeah, and that's going back. We talk a lot about the youngsters, and Denny, you first. Is what would you say to the younger group, like you say, younger kids or younger people that want to start to begin? What would you say to them to get into the sport?
I would say go to the racetrack, go in the pits, talk to people. I mean, we give all kinds of, anything we know to help another driver, we do. And most people are like that. You got to help somebody get into racing. Many times we have people stop by the shop here. Hey, the car is doing this. What should I look for? What should we be doing to the car to help it? Look for information. Don't take off on your own and think you're going to learn how to race or build a car on your own.
Yeah, and
go to the information market and tie in, if you even the first year, maybe tie in with a team and help somebody work on a car. Get some hands-on experience what the car is like.
So Tim, we were talking with the internet before, but sometimes it's better to talk to somebody like your dad, right? And not to say anything, but you can go to the internet and find information. But I know, for instance, I was in the Ross pits, not last weekend, the weekend before when the rain, and they were talking to you about the other car they had just bought and what to do to that car to change it to how they want to perform because they hadn't used it yet. And they came back and said, we were talking to Denny. But again, they're in their 30s. But again, their advice, they can go to the internet. But sometimes when you're talking to drivers, there's more knowledge, right, Tim?
Yes, there's definitely a lot more knowledge talking to your buddy or somebody that you're racing against, providing you will trust their information that they're giving you. So back in my early days, I mean, I'd ask questions and you'd get an answer, but it wasn't always the answer you were looking for. So I felt a lot of times when I was younger, we just guessed, and just kind of winged it and learned as you went. I mean, compared to nowadays, you just fire up the computer and type it in, and it tells you basically what was going on or what you need to do.
Well, Danny, if I used when we were over the track the other day, Rick Ellis was there. What would the conversation be like in a room if we put you, Mike Allman, and Rick Ellis in the room? What type of stories would we hear from you guys?
Probably a lot of them. All of us kind of grew up with that other generation of stock car races before us. There's a lot of stories out there and tales and really a lot of interesting stories to tell the truth. But
like almost like campfire
stories. A lot of little secrets come out like 30 years later. You were doing that back then. Well, I didn't know you.
Yeah, well,
some of it might not have been completely legal, but now it starts coming out a little bit.
Just like the fishing tails, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. But those, again, that's something I've talked about having, Jerry has mentioned, but getting, say, the three of you together and talking. Mm-hmm. And people have told me if you're going to do it, it's going to be about a 4 to 5 hour interview. Yeah. Just because of the, like I say, the amount of time.
Interestingly, I got home Sunday night, and Rick Ellis called me on the phone and chewed me out. I was at the track and I was telling him, I said, I don't think I'm going to be able to run the whole feature. I'm going to start the race, but if it overheats, I'm going to pull out. So Rick was with Mike Allman, And Mike said, "You want to stay and watch the ABCs?" And Rick told Mike, "No, Denny's going to pull off anyway, so let's take off out of here." So they took off, and he found out over at Myers that I had won the feature. So he called me up to kind of very pleasantly chew me out. He very pleasantly chewed me out for winning the feature when he wasn't there.
Now, Tim, with like I say, since you've started racing, is there a favorite track and maybe a favorite win or favorite race you've done?
Oh boy, I guess my favorite win is always your first.
Do you remember?
It was in Onaway. It was an Onaway Norway challenge where they had the Norway guys come over and race at Onaway, and I won a B feature that night. And I had the opportunity. I carried the flag around the track. I was so pumped up I didn't even stop to get my picture taken. I got a real blurry picture of me. And I went around the track, and I came back to drop the checkered flag back off to the guy who handed it to me, and he says that they disqualified me because I broke my quarter-second rule. And I thought, this is my first win. They're going to take it away from me, which they did, but I still didn't make no difference. I still beat everybody that night.
So, granny of the year, right?
Yeah, I was pretty pumped up about that. Regardless, they took it away, but how many people had their first win taken away from them?
So, like I say, winning features in the Aho family and forgetting to take pictures must run in the family thing, eh? We did that last weekend. Yeah, the fans are waiting.
I was just worried about the engine overheating, so I wanted to get off the track and make sure. But once I pulled in the pits, then and let idle, it started coming back down. So then I went back on the track.
And he had a lot of peer pressure too there from a lot of people sending him back up.
And then I know a buddy Polnick was sitting there, and like say we were talking and stuff like that afterwards, and he goes, he didn't come back out, and but he said to me, and this is coming from a younger guy saying he's won enough of them anyways. So he understands totally, like he understood totally when I was talking to him later. Again, some people like it, some don't. But like you say, you've done it, Dad's done it, so it must run, like you say, run of the family, right?
Yeah, we've both done it a few times.
So, now Tim, what do you enjoy more, late model or modifieds? Is there a difference?
The late models were fun. Had a lot of fun in them over the years. Very expensive to run. Teaches you a lot because you can't make contact, or you shouldn't make contact because they're so pricey to fix. Almost wished it would have started out in a 4-cylinder. Could have had a little more fun. And a little more bumping, things like that.
Is there how drivers should start, you think?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think to get it all out of your system and the contact and the thrill of it and the excitement, the late models though are a lot faster. The brakes are better. Everything about a late model is just better performance. Modifieds though, the competition in the modifieds is just off the charts. It was a blast. There's somebody to race with. You have 10 cars at any given time can win races here. In the late models didn't really feel that way, and maybe you may have had 2 or 3 that were going to win a race or going to win the next races. But the modifieds, I think, are definitely a lot more competitive class. It's been a lot more enjoyable to race.
And with modifieds, and I use
still just as stressful, but it's definitely enjoyable.
Harder to drive. Modified almost has as much power as a late model, but they're a lot harder car to drive. Very unforgiving cars. Make a mistake in a modified, and you went from 5th place to 10th place right now.
Right away.
Yes.
And that's one thing I use being in Sioux, Michigan, or Sioux, Ontario, where I guess where we're all based, is within 7 hours. There's so many races and so many series. Not that you have to be part of the series, but now on any given Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, now there's so many races for modifieds compared to the super late.
Yeah, they're all over the place right now. Right now, one good thing about our late models, our modified is, we could leave right now and go anywhere in the state of Indiana, Ohio, Michigan. And it's legal to go there. Late models, nobody can really agree on the rules whether or not the sun's going to come up tomorrow. It's always been that way.
It's my sandbox, and I'll do what I want.
That's pretty much, yes. That's my opinion, exactly. So.
And it's unfortunate for the sport.
There's four or five tracks in Michigan on late models, and there's 4 or 5 different sets of rules.
Yeah. You
pick out a track you want to go to, and you build a car to those rules, but it isn't legal at the other tracks, which is sad.
It's unfortunate. When going back to, we were talking about NASCAR, and not comparing it, but NASCAR to run a race day is almost $1 million. And I don't mean to be to the average Joe, when you're running a super late or a mod, and I'm not comparing it to $1 million, but you can't compare it to a point because your weekend warriors putting money into it. You only get so many weekends, and I'm not comparing the $1 million budget, but tires only last so long. And you're not winning, like I use Michigan, the winner got $250,000 to win. When you get your winnings at tracks, it's not paying even for a set of tires, right?
No.
So it's more enjoyment.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just to put a modified on the track for one night of racing, I mean, you're looking at close to $600. Probably a pretty good number, 600 to 500 for tires, 75 for fuel, 25 to get in, your fuel for your truck, transportation out there, and hopefully you don't bang anything up or tear any equipment up.
Yeah. And that's only if you're at Kinross.
Exactly.
So if you're traveling 4 or 5 hours,
yeah, it can add up.
you're $1,000 if
Hopefully
not
you
more.
don't tear anything up in the process because it can get expensive. And these things, I think, are just, the mods are just as expensive, I think, to fix as the late models. I mean, people say they're cheaper. Bottom line is, they're expensive.
But again, going back, it's for enjoyment, right?
Exactly.
And for you guys, you get to spend with family.
Yeah, my mom, my sister, they're out there every single week. They're supporting us. My mom gives away the donations every week. Yeah, they're out there every week, so really good support.
Exactly. Now, Danny, if you had a favorite track or a favorite race you've been to or won, is there one?
Oh boy,
And do you remember?
I'd kind of catered to Kinross, but I used to go up to Norway quite a bit. I enjoyed that track. I always ran real competitive up there. I've been up there nights when there's been over 50 late model cars there. And the competition is hard. I mean, they'll run a 15, 16 car heat. You're constantly racing with somebody, and I thought that was very enjoyable. They usually don't get strung out or anything like that. You're always beside somebody, behind somebody, in front of somebody. You're constantly racing. You aren't just sitting there relaxing, staring out the window. And that's enjoyable.
It's not a scenic drive.
Yeah, no scenic driving there.
Yeah. Now, are you going up at the end of July?
I'm planning on it.
With the Triple Crown between
Yeah.
Sands, Norway, and Kinross?
Right, I'm planning on it right now.
Now, are you going to run, Tim?
I think right now we're just tentatively planning on just bringing the ABC car on.
So
Right now, I'm not sure how many other modified drivers are planning on it. I've
If we
talked
can
to
get
a few.
field.
Not real sure yet. But as of right now, we're planning on just bringing the ABC car on.
now, do you do hot shoe?
I tried it 2 years ago, and had fun. Ran a beef feature. It wasn't really what I was expecting, but that was my first time ever being there, so I guess you gotta expect, you're not gonna be in the A feature every week. So I enjoyed myself. It was a good time. Last year we didn't go. I was just too stressed out about points and just didn't want to sacrifice getting the car hurt. I think a lot of locals here that went to the hot shoe last year found themselves, with some incidents and got banged up, and actually I think may have hurt them in the points at the end of the year at Kinross, being that they got
Car banged up.
damaged at the hot shoe. But great event though.
Yeah, a lot of the local cars did put on held their own pretty good down there. I mean, they were in the hunt.
Yeah.
It isn't as if they got smoked by the Indiana or Ohio cars. They were in there racing with them. And
Yeah, I think
put
if
on a good show.
you can win features at Kinross or win races at Kinross in a modified, you can go to anywhere in the state of Michigan, Indiana, Ohio. Josh Ware's proved that. Josh runs well. Todd Jackson's proved that. They can go out of town and still win races.
This weekend, Travis Eddy. It was 4 short, but he won Kalamazoo on Friday. Buddy actually got banged up and finished 6th. So Buddy Jr. had Kalamazoo on Friday night. So it shows, like I say, if you can run with them, it's worth. And it's worth traveling, right?
Yeah, there's definitely no slouches around here. Definitely got a very, very competitive field of modifieds. That's for sure.
Now, and for both of you, how do you change to different tracks? Where I use when it comes to football or basketball or hockey, the ice can be a little bit different, or the floor and like say that's a little bit different. But when you come to racing, every track is different. How do you adapt to the driving on the different tracks?
Most of it would just be your gearing is all we'd really change up much anymore. Most of the setups we keep the same setup. Maybe take a little cross weight out of it, or vice versa, or more rear weight. But for the most part, we don't change a lot. Just gears.
Usually the first time you go to the track, you don't expect to do well. It's a learning process. You learn for when I go back to that track, okay, now I've got a game plan, what I can do at this track. But very seldom do you do well the first night you go to a strange track. It's just, you learn. It's
Between the banking, everything, right?
It's a learning curve, yeah. The gearing, where do you brake, where do you gas? It's a learning curve that first night.
Yeah,
so usually it's a sacrifice that first night.
Yeah, our first night we went to the hot shoe 2 years ago, I believe it was. We changed the gears 5 times?
Something like that, yeah.
And we still weren't where we wanted to be at the end of the
And
night.
that bank is quite steep compared to Kinross, right?
Yeah, a lot different. Just never could find the right gear we were looking for.
And I know, and I'm just going from me, like say, taking pictures or video and that, and I walk down the bank of Whittemore compared to Kinross. And not jokingly, but as you're climbing back up, you're climbing back up. Where
Yes.
Kinross has a bank, but so I can imagine learning Kinross and taking a car to Whittemore. It's a different experience alone, like you say, when it comes to gearing because of the bank's so much
I
steeper.
think if you were an Onaway regular, you would adapt a little bit more better to Whittemore than per se Kinross. You know, Kinross is a little bit different shape than what Onaway is in Whittemore. But I think they both, Onaway and Whittemore, I think are probably pretty close to the same style driving track, I guess, same gear, I guess.
And the one question is, why do you do it?
It's just addictive. It's just what we've been doing for so long. That's all I've ever known since I was a little kid. Just
And it's
wake
this
up
gentleman's fault?
Wake up and put air in the tires when I was a little kid and make sure that the car was ready to go so when he got home from work, we could take off and go somewhere. And it's pretty much just still in my system. Can't get rid of it.
And Denny?
Well, it's the same thing. I enjoy the people at the track, enjoy the racing. Some people like to go up and down the river in a boat. I like to go play with race cars.
Now, did your father drive and you said you used to go to race, or is
No,
he was more of a race fan?
He worked as a mechanic on a car. This was about 1952, 53. There was a track there in the Sioux here called the Gordon Speedway. It was a dirt track. And I was about probably 7, 8 years old then, and that kind of got me hooked. And I can just about tell you everybody who raced back there then.
Now, did you race dirt at also, Denny?
I ran Elmira one time when it was dirt, and I think I ran Hayden twice while it was dirt. But that's about my dirt experience. If anything, I think dirt's a very forgiving racing. Asphalt is a lot less forgiving. You don't have a car that's working right, or you aren't hitting the points just quite right. On dirt, you'll get away with it. Asphalt, you won't. It'll show up real quick.
Now, would you race dirt again?
Oh yeah, in a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is there much change for people who don't know? Is there much change that you would have to change? Say your ABC to go on.
The ABC wouldn't be too bad. The modifieds would require a little more changing. Late models are completely different animals. Either it's an asphalt car or it's a dirt car. There isn't anything in between.
So again, it comes down to cost. You got to choose,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And right now, it's the closest one is for here, where we're sitting right now in your garage. We're only not even 20 minutes away from Kinross.
Yeah.
For dirt right now, it's a 3-hour drive. So to have a car
Merritt Speedway is the closest.
Yeah, and
in
right
3
now,
hours.
Buddy Polnick is the only one, I guess, in the area right now that's racing both. Some Saturday nights down there and some nights back here. So it's a little bit of a travel to have a dirt car in this area right now, right? Mm-hmm. So the last question I always ask is, who would you like to thank when it comes to family or sponsors or people that help you in the pits?
I got to thank basically my dad, mom, sister Kim. There's my biggest supporters by far. Pretty much just him and I are the only two that really have each other in the pits. So it's actually going to screw us up a little bit this year because he's going to be racing the ABC car and I'm going to be racing the mod now. So if we have a problem, there's always going to be one in a car not going to be able to help the other one out. So that's going to screw us up a little
Rick
bit.
Ellis will probably come over and give us a hand. He'll come over and check.
He doesn't know what he's doing, though, does he?
Pardon?
With all his years of experience, he probably doesn't know what he's doing, right?
No, he just tells us go fast and turn left.
That's all he ever did. He had a few successful races. It's like we were at the track. My wife was there, and she said, "Is that Rick?" I'm like, "Yes." And she goes, "He doesn't race anymore." I'm like, "No." I said, "After 50 years," I said, he decided to hang him up. And I think 50 years, again, going back, it's not too many people who play any sport for 50 years to be involved for 50 years. So, well, thank you very much, and hope to see you at the track on the 9th.
Thank you.
Pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Nobody gets you closer to the action than Rev It Up Racing. For all your short track racing and late model, modified, ABC stock car, street stock, and 4-cylinder divisions, visit revitupracing.net. That's revitupracing.net for all your racing coverage.